welcome back to the stage filmmaker Max Walker-Silverman.
Reis, Meghann, Fahy, LaTorre, Josh O'Connor. I'd like to ask my rest of the friends from the cast and those from the Valley to please stand. And the whole casting crew, will you all please stand?
Congratulations, Max.
Thanks to you.
What a village.
Yeah, we found a village.
Let's talk origins first as a way in. Let's talk about some of your earlier. Let's talk about the origin of the project, how you got started, some of the earlier inspirations.
This script began a couple of years ago when I had just moved back home to Colorado, where I'd grown up. And on one hand, it felt like the simplest and loveliest and cleanest possible thing in the world. It was the place I love best and where all the people I love best are, and my friends and my family, and it's where I understand myself most clearly to live and be who I am. And on the other hand, I didn't know what life there might look like, what life in the dry, rural places of this world might look like. And in looking for a home and how to build a home, I found myself stuck between questions familiar in some form to all of us, whether it's fires or floods or anything more or less material, of what is this home going to look like and what can it be? And I didn't know, I didn't have answers to those questions, so I decided to imagine them. And this film was me trying to picture what a nice life could look like. And it wasn't one in which losses were avoided or erased as they cannot be, but instead it was one that decides if loss and destruction will be part of our lives, as they are and have been and will only increasingly be. Then let's hope that the strange and amazing things that follow in their wake, as they do every time, people taking care of each other in ways that they only do after loss. Let's hope that that can only become more a part of our lives as well. And that's how I wrote
process for this?
I was riding 70 miles as the crow flies away from where we filmed in a different part of the state, and I'd always loved the valley, which is a sacred part of the world, but hadn't been for quite a while since like going there for soccer games in high school and stuff. I returned for other reasons and was just so struck by the great vast beauty of it. It's so empty and so huge, and it's its own beautiful part of the state. And you know, I've been making films where I've lived in Colorado for a while now, and it felt exciting to just go to the next valley over, where things were all the same but also different, and we could bother different people with asking them for favors instead of
Thank you. Josh, congratulations. Sort of a similar question, but you could take multiple choice. You could take parts of it.
Okay.
I'd love to know about what drew you or what engaged you with this character, but I'd also love to know about some of the early. I mean, obviously, at some point you have a script to work from, but I'd love to know about the conversations that maybe you and Max had, either early on or as you were working through getting to the point of shooting the film.
Yeah. Well, I came to it because I'd seen Max's first film, which was here, and I really loved that, a love song. And actually, as well, and I was just thinking this as we were watching the movie, we had a conversation, Max and I had a conversation, maybe our first conversation, about hope and perhaps the lack of it in cinema, or that, you know, that it's rare. And it's one of the things I loved about a love song was the hope that Max has. And then beyond that, it really was sort of Max. We had this Zoom call, and as you just heard him speak, he speaks so beautifully from the heart. And I was just really excited to go and hang out in a land that he knows, and we had some time together before we started shooting, and Max took me around in his truck. And we looked at the landscape and looked at the valley, and yeah, that's the beginning of the film. Yeah.
Thanks. To each of you, congratulations and welcome to the festival. I'd love to ask each of you the same question, and you can take it in any order you might want. Watching the film this afternoon, what does it take you back to? Tell us about the experience of this collaboration. Again, multiple choice, you can pick whichever thread you want, but memories of the experience, or what the experience of watching it today takes you back to, or some reflections on this collaboration with folks on the stage here and folks in the audience.
No, well, first of all, this has just been like a great experience to just even meet Max and Josh and the whole cast and the crew. I gotta shout out the crew, you know? This whole, you know, first of speaking with Max and reading the script, and from the first page, like Josh said, he speaks from the heart, but you could feel it in every page, every word that he wrote, the description of these characters and the landscape, and not focusing too much on the tragedy that happened, but exactly that, how do you rebuild these questions that we don't really explore when something happens, when we grieve, when we lose people, when we lose memories, and that's just part of life. But he has a beautiful way of articulating it in the script, and it's just captivating reading this. And my experience with this shoot was exactly what you saw on the big screen. Was very family, very community oriented, and it was just a reflection of exactly what the story we were trying to tell. It was just a beautiful collaboration. I mean, we had so many talks about what we thought this character, Mila, what her backstory is, and that's one of my favorite things to do, explore the parts of these characters that maybe the audience won't know, as, performers or us telling the story. And it was just a real beautiful time. And I mean, I can pull from every day that there was something that was just beautiful, but I will say there was not a bad sunset. I was taking out the phone every day. I mean, it was just a part of the day, or the sunrise was just a beautiful part. So it was just really, I'm really grateful to be part of this experience.
Remember the question? I don't. What was it again?
Well, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of your own memories of the experience of this collaboration. When you watch the film now, what do you go back to? What do you think about?
Well, I don't remember most of the parts sometimes, but one of my probably favorite parts was when me and Lucy were running in the afternoon, running in the dust, I guess. Yeah. And I just remember getting there and going, I remember getting there and going, remember the line. And they said one small line, but it was so hard to remember that one small line. So I also loved the storms and sunsets. Everything about that place was so beautiful and just so calming. And the movie, watching it's just such a beautiful movie. And so good in it. Me and my gran, I just one day just wanted to, I don't know, just draw up a dress. I drew it, and then I asked because my gran's really good at sewing, and she made her wedding dress, and I just asked her, can we make this dress? And, well, of course, she said yes. So, I dropped the idea, it took 2 weeks, I think. We made the dress, we sewed it all together, it was fun.
Do a twirl. I don't have anything really else to add to the experience of making the film. It was just very cozy. It was very peaceful on set every day. And that was such a great environment to be in. I feel like when you're in a space that feels that calm and supportive, that's when the good stuff happens. So I was very happy to be a part of it. Something that really struck me this time when we watched it this afternoon was this idea of you got what you got, which I just heard differently this time. I don't know why, but I just think that's so beautiful, that sentiment that Bess puts in her will that Ruby repeats at the funeral, and I think that that's kind of the whole spirit of it. I didn't make my dress.
Some of us, Max, watch this movie, and if we live in California or came from California, we watch this movie, and I think it gives us a community. The idea of hope through community, I think, is really transformative, and I think that it's something that probably those of us who have a connection to what's recently happened in the state of California might find that a very inviting moment, and inviting, inviting opportunity to think about how to begin to even before rebuilding, how to begin to process or heal. So I wonder how you think about that notion of community as a, because I was just so impressed by when you sort of throw to your cast and everybody, and then you just look at like all the people that had to come together or that came together with you to make this movie and to explore these ideas. It seems like there's something on the other side of pain, which is healing through a connection, a community, something there.
I spoke a bit about the questions of the film earlier, and this will feel tragically and beautifully familiar to many of you. But ultimately the story was catalyzed a few years ago. My grandmother's house burned in a fire, which had come to my mother, and it was a devastating loss of so many things, physical and then so many emotional things that those things held. And I was very scared to see it, very, very scared, and I put it off for quite a long time. Long enough that when I finally did, it was a blackened, dead expanse up here, and then down here was a sea of green and purple flowers. And in the years since, I've watched the way my mother has brought that land back to life and tended to it, and it's not the same as it was, and it never will be, but she loves it very dearly still, and cares for it, and works on it, and it will burn again as well. What's inspired me seeing the way that she's cared for that land and the gardens that are there now is the knowledge that the fact that it burned and the fact that it will, the pain of the past and the uncertainty of the future does not diminish, and in fact only fertilizes the present that is existing there. There are moments in which that sort of ecology is not enough of a comfort. And then there are moments when it is. This movie touches on the moments when it is. And if that works for people, it will do everything.
I would hope to take one question from the audience. I know we're almost out of time, but you've been such a generous and responsive audience. So just one question from right here in the third row.
My question is, we never get to see Dusty in Act 1. And Act 1 is sort of implied, right? Like we never get to see him as the cowboy before the fire. And I was wondering if you could talk about what you give and what you get by sort of implying the good times before the loss, versus the choice you made, which is start with loss.
The question is really about structure. I mean, we can go deeper into sort of how you decided to structure the story the way you did, how you bring the character and characters in and navigate what they're going through and what they're going to go through.
Well, I guess it's the structure part. You'd probably be better. I was going to say it'd be a lot longer. But no, I think, well, I suppose one of the things, and it's kind of alluded to in the first act, is that perhaps Dusty didn't have all that much time for community, for his family, and that maybe he wasn't even aware of that loss, what he was missing out on. And I suppose the thing that drew me to Max's script was that we're jumping in after the fact and watching someone rebuild their life, with community, with family, with his daughter. So in that sense, I think that from a character perspective, to see someone at the beginning of a journey, a snapshot, is all you really need. And actually, some of the things I really love about the experience of watching this film is really early on and seeing the little, as you mentioned, the kind of nod to what was before, the castle market and having to hand over things. And for instance, like the scene when he goes to the bank and wants to rebuild his life as it was, and that rather than that being a devastating fact that he can't, it's an opportunity for something new. So I think starting it at that point has two benefits. One, you can all go home earlier. But also, the fundamental is that we watch him really at the beginning of this enclosed journey. But Max, you're definitely better at the structure.
You're correct.
There you go.
It's like it's almost like what was his best material in his relationship to it. You might remember it